Welcome to another Senator Shope Snapshot of the Week. This week, I'd like to highlight the Biden administration's failure to provide the necessary $360 million grant to continue the widening of Interstate 10 from Casa Grande to Chandler. If the grant had been approved, these funds would have added to the $400 million in state funding that the legislature approved last year and the nearly $100 million in previous years. Last year, the Arizona legislature passed a bill to fund the widening of this 26-mile stretch of I-10 from 2 lanes to 3 lanes. Arizona's $400 million investment to widen Interstate 10 between Phoenix and Tucson will benefit all Arizona residents and tourists. The part between Chandler and Casa Grande, known as the Wild Horse Pass Corridor, is the only remaining 2-lane stretch of highway between Arizona's 2 largest cities. I was proud to sponsor this bill and see it go across the finish line. However, since the federal government declined the desperately needed grant, we will need to find alternative funding. It appears that for this round of grant funding, federal highway officials were more interested in funding so-called green transportation. This could include alternatives to driving, such as bike lanes. Are bike lanes at all reasonable for this stretch when it's 115 degrees outside? No. They chose not to work with us, but I'll tell you where they are going to be spending the money. 1. A bunch of California bicycle crossings and zero-emission buses. 2. A $292 million process for a New York City tunnel that has already cost $16 billion. And 3. Bus lanes, traffic signals, and median barriers for 12 million feet of Philadelphia surface streets. In my opinion, this is absurd, but it will not prevent us from completing this project for Arizonans. Also, this week's news is monumental. As we introduced a budget, yes, you heard me correctly, we have passed a budget even, a proposal for 23 and 24 that will provide security to all Arizona residents and state agencies during the uncertainty of our nation's current economic downturn. Unfortunately, our colleagues on the opposing side of the aisle criticized our budget, which has the same structure as last year's budget. Not only did Senate Democrats call last year's budget historic and bipartisan, but Secretary of State Hobbs at the time also publicly praised the budget's bipartisan nature. To change our tune now merely demonstrates the partisan games being played by legislative Democrats, who are only interested in creating division. This budget will prevent a government shutdown in the future and represents the responsible course of action today. Finally, on a happy note, and you know I love happy, this week we had an incredible Ag Fest at the Capitol. Each county was represented at the expo that was set up in front of the Capitol and was accessible to all legislators and staff from our agriculture community. Ag's current contribution of $23.3 billion to Arizona's economy is growing. The prominent perception is that Arizona is a dry and predominantly desert state. However, Arizona has numerous ecosystems, and the climate and soil in some of the regions permit farmers to cultivate multiple crops on the same land throughout the year. I pledge to encourage farming, ranching, and agribusiness by supporting and promoting Arizona's agriculture. So with that, make sure you follow me on social media platforms listed at the end of this video, and come back again next week for another Senator Shope's Snapshot of the Week.